It's really interesting how one interest can lead to another. As some of you may have guessed, I love languages. With each language I've tried to learn, or at least learn about, there was always something that led to it. My interest in Spanish came from salsa, Latin from Roman history and dinosaurs, and Greek from, of course, dinosaurs, but also Greek mythology. And my interest in Greek mythology came from this movie, The Clash of the Titans. There are many things to love about it. I've read of Perseus and Medusa. I'm just going to use the non-Greek pronunciations for this video. But the movie was the first time I've ever seen how the bottom half of Medusa might look like. There's the Release the Kraken scene.
Release the Kraken.
But most mesmerizing of all, besides Judy Balker, was Pegasus made real. Now, Clash of the Titans amalgamates the best parts from different myths. Pegasus doesn't actually belong to the story of Perseus, but then of Bellerophon and the Chimera. An irony of ironies, Medusa was technically his mother, which cleverly enough, I think the movie paid homage to in this scene. A flying white horse really captured my imagination and created a fascination with horses. Star Ace Toys has offered a 30cm Harryhausen Pegasus, which I didn't get because the wings were made of soft simulated feather, and from my experience, such things yellow with age. It's also way beyond my price range now. But this one is made of polyresin, which allows for sharp detail with more durability than polystone. And more than that, the iconic pose of Pegasus rearing up, wing spread, was just too much to resist. You can see immediately what a presence it has. The statue measures 45 centimeters or 17.7 inches tall, wingspread 38 centimeters or 15 inches, a horizontal length of about 35 centimeters or 13.8 inches long. And I'll make that size real for you. For dinosaur lovers, here's the Haolonggu Alamosaurus, the Eye Toys Paraceratherium, Wilson, and Cameron. And for dragon lovers, here's the Monster Hunter Creators model Kushala Daora and the Creators model Rathalos. The entire anatomy of the horse, every curve, bulge and line, is beautiful to me, but if I were forced to choose, it would be the head of the horse that's the most pleasing. Now just look at this. The typical features of a horse are all there, with that tapered shape, the cheek, the cheekbone, and the surrounding musculature. And it's not all white just slapped on, with gentle fades as seen from the bridge into the muzzle, for example. You have those black, wet-looking nostrils. And the same here. From the front here, you see a slight tilt in the head, adding some dynamism to the pose. Now I don't know for sure, but I think I've read that Ray Harryhausen referenced the Lipizzaner, but this model appears to me to have a dished profile rather than the Roman nose I'd expect in a Lipizzaner. Now one of you horse experts can advise me on this. And here you see the very stylized yet pleasing looking mane. A bit closer, you see the texture and detail created into the skin. And it's not just one smooth white patch. You'll see details like the superficial veins here. And again, some very nice fading, so it's not just a flat white. Now a closer look at those well-formed ears, very useful for drawing reference. The eyelids. Now let me shade this a bit, and you can see that superficial vascularity again. Again, you see that detail in the cheek area. And not to look a gift horse in the mouth, well not really, I had to pay money for this, but you can see the teeth in here. Now the flowing locks of the mane again down the neck. And again, you'll notice the anatomical bumps and bulges that makes this a nice reference for learning to draw if you're so minded. Down here we see the wonderfully sculpted musculature in the neck. As we head into the body. And speaking of which, I love that we get a white Pegasus. Now black is my favorite color, and the Clash of the Titans remake gave us a twist making Pegasus black. Which was very cool, but for me, Pegasus was always white. Of course, if this is in fact based on a lipid sauna, we learn from Denzel Washington that
And at birth, they're not white. They're black.
So a black Pegasus might have had a double meaning. Now the long legs of a horse is really where you see many adaptations for speed and power. The elongate limb bones with minimal muscle below the knee and the hock reduce the weight of the limb lifted with each powerful stride. And yet proximal to that, you'll see the huge, beautifully formed muscle in the shoulder and the hip area. The unguligrade mode of locomotion effectively lengthens the limb so that each stride covers a greater distance and hence results in higher speeds. And even having a single hoof helps with energy transfer, while giving the animal a broader contact area for stability and traction. So we now come to one of the most exciting areas of a horse, the forelimb. Now look here at the form of the shoulder area, and the triceps musculature. Even down the arm, and then what is essentially a very long hand, the knee being analogous to our wrist, the cannon the metacarpal, and then the pastern down being the phalanges. And on the left, you see again that beautiful muscle bulk concentrated proximally in the limb, and you can appreciate the underlying form of the skeletal structure with the bones and the joints very well defined. The hoof is the fingernail. The very shiny single hoof. What a beautiful sheen and fade in this area. Now a quick look now at the underside, confirming that it is in fact the one and only Pegasus. Another look down the flank. That well-formed rump, very pleasingly round and firm, with those hatched textures we've seen in other parts of the horse. There's a nice vascularity, another detail here as well, in the belly area, very subtle but definitely obvious. The horse limb is captured very nicely indeed. Not just the musculature, but the very form of the underlying bones. And again, the bumps of the joints just gives you an instinctive sense of engineering beauty of function and artistic beauty of form. The curves from the rump, down the thighs, the leg, and down. Now a quick butt shot of the statue with the hole, and again notice the beautiful structure of the horse here. The wings are of course a special highlight, and unsurprisingly it is beautifully sculpted here. And you see immediately a mass of fur covering where the marginal coverts would be. A nice design choice matching the mane and the tail of the horse. If this is in fact present in some birds, please let me know. And there are different shades of white and off-white, and you'll even see some yellowing in the fur over here. There are slight differences in the form of the feathers, and see the different directionalities and deviations from the same plane. You see how individually the feathers are sculpted. And from the ventral side, you see how the secondaries and the primaries have their own form, again lifting off at different angles and directions, lending beauty and realism. And as we rotate the wing, you'll see this happening at each layer up, lifting off here for example. Very, very nice. Now we have a closer look at the furry, almost downy feathers over the marginal coverts. And besides visual and tactile interest, they create different shadowing effects, which is so important in creating different tones. Now here are the feathers, and these are full feathers with various features you'd expect of such. There's a full rachis that stands out in bold relief, but to varying degrees in each feather. And so once again, individuality. You see the sculpted separation in the barbs of the veins, with some spits, making them look very well lived in indeed. And some do look a bit scratched in, but by and large I think they look pretty good. And it's just so beautiful with the different curves created here. A lot of thought has definitely gone into their design. Some even go in opposite directions, creating a ruffled appearance that's not picture perfect, and yet because of this, looks so incredibly natural. And again, look at those luscious curves. And now here we have that bushy tail, with the hair done in the same aesthetic we've seen in the mane and the wings. Now for all white statues, I usually like to turn down one of the lights to give you another look at detail and shadow. And I think as we do a once over, you'll see some interesting textures we didn't see with my regular lighting setup. And again, everywhere you look, the natural anatomy of the horse is wonderfully brought out. And then when it comes to the wings, surely the highlight of Pegasus. Plenty of thought, planning and care went into sculpting something that's truly worthy of this magnificent animal. Now needless to say, all this texture and relief makes for interesting interplay of shadows depending also on the angle that you view them. And that's the kind of variety I really enjoy in a model, especially a white one, such that any angle and any area you choose to look at, there's something interesting and beautiful to see. Now here's the base, and to be honest, I'm not very clear what this is showing. One of you can advise me. I watched the movie again this afternoon, and I don't recall seeing this. You'll see little details here, such as the gravel and the soil grit. And here we have the model number. Now I got the standard version, as my experience with Hot Toys has shown that I end up never using the light up features, and then I have to worry about batteries inside, such as you'd have in the deluxe version. And of course in that version, you also get a beautiful model of Bubo the Owl. Now, for my more magnificent statues, we get the old turntable treatment, and I think you can see that in this statue, we have a very worthy representation of Pegasus, not just as he appears in a movie, but as a representation of this very iconic mythological animal. This brings back so many memories and gives me a great feeling of nostalgia, and it's also a reminder to me I really have to get back to those riding lessons that I suspended because of COVID, as well as get back to learning how to draw again. Now let me know what you think, especially if, like me, you're old enough to appreciate the stop-motion animation magic and grew up with Clash of the Titans, Jason and the Argonauts, Sinbad, and of course 1 million years BC, drooling over Raquel Welch. I mean those dinosaurs. And I'll see you in the next video.